Hi, my name is Robin McCallan. I'm the executive director of an organization called True Colors. If you don't know what True Colors is, we're an organization that does education and advocacy for gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, intersex, queer, questioning, two-spirit, same-gender loving, pansexual, flexual, not straight, not labeling, straightish, straight so far, straight with options, straight but stuff happens, gender bending, bi-gendered, pan-gendered, genderqueer, asexual, agender, and other sexual and gender minority youth. You might tell that we work with teenagers. I love to start with the litany of the language just because it sets a framework for understanding that life today is really different than it was maybe for those of us who came out in decades past. And it isn't enough to say it gets better. What we do and what everybody that you'll see in this video is doing is making it better now.
You know, there was a time not too long ago where I was really in a dark place. I was 40 years old, and every day I wondered if I wanted to live the next day. And then I realized that I was transgender, and my life totally changed. And for, I would say, probably a week or so, I celebrated the fact that I finally realized who I was. But then I got scared. I didn't know any trans people. I felt alone. I could never imagine being transgender and being happy at the same time. So I went to a beach with all intentions to end my life. And I remember sitting on the beach, and I can get emotional just thinking about it, and I started crying because you know what? I really didn't want to die, but I didn't know any other way out. And then something happened. Something happened inside me, and something said, stop, create yourself. And I realized at that moment that I had all the power to create the person I wanted to be. And that I really truly wasn't alone, that I had a community. And this is what my message today really is, when you feel like you're alone, I want to remind you that you're not. I want you to remind you to take your hand and put your hand out, and your community will grab your hand and we will help you through the darkness. Because a lot of us have been through the darkness and now we're in the light. So never, ever, ever feel alone. We're here for you.
So it's like this. You have the right to love who you choose. It's just that simple. No one can tell you who to love. Your heart is who you are. Be true to yourself, be true to your heart. It just gets better.
Sometimes, during the darkest moments of our life, maybe that's middle school or high school for some, it certainly was for me, you might not feel supported. You might not feel like you have many people around you who love you. And just remember that you are loved. And there's a community out there who cares about you. And I'm grateful that I did not choose to harm myself or do any such thing during those times, because I had no idea how great my life would become. So my message to you is to feel that community around you and know that your life will get better.
Knowing that our community members would beat up what they would call fags at Long Wharf when I was a kid, that gay women were raped and beat up coming out of clubs and bars, really shaped the way that I decided to come out or not come out, as the case may be.
When I was in grade school and in high school, I remember getting beat up at the bus stop. And you know, from those experiences, I learned to hide. I learned to be macho. I learned to protect my true self.
I am a husband, a son, a brother, a lawyer, a writer, an athlete, and I am transgender. I was born and raised female, and it has not been an easy road. Kids are perceptive, and they picked right up on exactly who I was, and they teased me about my gender when they wanted to hurt me, and it worked. But it wasn't just the kids, it was teachers also. I had this one teacher who I really looked up to, everybody did. And one day we were on a field trip, and we were on the bus heading towards a very religious area where men and women are separated. And so as we're getting closer, the teacher says, I want boys on this side of the bus and girls on this side of the bus, and he looks at me and he said, and you in the middle. And everybody laughed, and I laughed too and tried to pass it off like this, like I thought it was funny, but I was devastated.
The fact is that as a child, I was bullied and ostracized and intimidated and marginalized, and it's a horrible feeling. They're feelings that I still remember vividly today.
Hey, none of us are alone. We all have challenges that we have to live through and grow through. When I was growing up, I had severe learning disabilities and physical disabilities that took me a long time to get over. I fought some of the fights that maybe you're fighting.
I've had bad experiences when I was growing up because I was bullied for being who I was or the way I did behave or how I felt. So I kept things for myself. But I still had dreams like most of you do, and I still do have dreams which are fantastic. I came to this country, I worked, I continued my studies, and then guess what? I became a psychiatrist, a job that I love. I'm a doctor, so I proved to myself that I could be whatever I wanted to be, so can you.
I am an out gay man, and I wasn't always like this, though. Right now I'm proud, and look, you can even see my pants, how crazy I am. I get to wear all these things and not have to worry about what people think. But there was a time when I did care about what people thought, and I was in a very strange place. I was in a very alone place, and people were picking on me. High school was a disaster. In some instances, I was a popular kid, but at the same time, I was also picked on by a group of kids that made my life hell.
I remember when I was the state senator from Stamford. I was the first openly gay state senator, and I thought that was a big step forward for the gay community in Connecticut. And yet, I still remember when I came out of an event one day, and my car had been vandalized with a vulgar term for gay people. And so, as much as the world has changed, there's still more progress that needs to happen.
It was really about who was I going to be in this world. The only other gay people I knew were creative. And I wasn't particularly creative. I was a math and science nerd. And I needed to find a place for me to be me in the world that fit me. And it was hard.
And I was thinking, am I ever going to get out of this? Is it ever going to get better? Is this ever going to change for me?
Sometimes I feel like giving up. Sometimes I don't know what to do next. That might be you right now. But I reach out to people, even if it's one person. I call them up, I send a message, I write to someone.
Resources present themselves. People come into your life and they're there to help you get to that next stage of whatever it's going to be. So I hope that you will be you. Not be me, not be someone else, but be authentically you and build a support system around you, a family and friends. That's why they're there. We get to build the families that we want and need. And I know you can do it.
I'll never forget my father. My father probably saw hundreds of patients. Many of them were gay. He was one of the least judgmental people I've ever known. And he burst into tears. But through the tears, he said, "We still love you. This doesn't change anything." And I will never forget that. That was so powerful. That here was this man, obviously, like really upset. And I think the tears that he was crying were probably the tears of mourning the grandchildren that I wasn't going to give him or whatever. But he was crying, but then saying the right thing, and that really meant a lot to me. And it was. I think I came back to that image a lot through my young adulthood. I would remember it, and it would give me a kind of strength. I would feel like, well, God, if this guy can be supportive and just solidly there, then maybe I can be there for some people.
Life is your stage, your chance to make your mark on the world. Don't let the hate and ignorance of others interrupt what would be a Tony Award-winning performance. You have the right to love who you love and be who you want to be. You have a right to live your life out loud. And when you do, it will get better.
Hi, I'm Dan Wogue. I've spent my life as an openly gay soccer coach and leader of an LGBT youth group. And I have to say, in all the years I've been working with youth, straight and gay, it gets better. Doesn't mean the day you come out it's all sunshine and rainbows and parades, but over time, usually sooner rather than later, it gets better. You find friends, you find a community, you find partners, you find activities, you find life and love.
The best part of coming out was being fortunate enough to be openly embraced by loving and accepting people. The worst part of coming out was being shunned by a world that did not understand. Throughout my time being openly gay thus far, I have been heckled, I have been screamed profanities at while walking down the street holding hands with my girlfriend. I have been called cruel names, and I have felt ashamed. When I was 13 years old, I thought that being gay was the worst thing I could possibly be, and now at 19 years old, it is the most proud part of my identity that I could ever imagine. In the words of Ellen DeGeneres, perhaps the face, or one of the many faces of the equality movement, it does get better, and you deserve to be alive to see it.
So just remember, it does get better.
I'm here to tell you, it gets better.
You are not alone in this world. There are people like you in this world. There are people who are waiting to love you. There are people who need your love. Believe that. Believe me, it does get better.
We're here for you. Believe me, it will get better.
We've been beat up, we've been called fag and dyke and queer, we've been called a lot of names, but our love for each other and our community has survived. And we will band together like we're banding together now.
There's so much available to you. Just look around, reach out, and we'll be there to support you.
So there is hope, and it does get better. Trust me. Look at me. I'm working in the newsroom. I'm a pretty popular personality here in Connecticut, and I'm an out gay man, and people love and respect me. So this is what you have to look forward to.
Once you speak your truth to the people who love you, everything in life gets better. Everything. It does get better.